This morning, as we're working through this mindset of can I be trusted, is the title of the whole series that we've worked through. In the first couple of weeks, we dealt with can I trust God? And we talked about in trusting God, two areas in which you have to learn to trust God. You have to learn to trust God in what you cannot see. It's trusting when I can't see what's going on. And that's the first level because God is a spirit and He's just going to lead and guide. But you're not going to see things a lot of times. And so we talked about Abraham, how Abraham was able to trust God for 25 years for a child, not seeing any fruit from it. And then we talked about the second thing you've got to be able to do is when you're going to say, I'm going to trust God, you're going to have confidence. And you're going to have to be able to stand on that confidence. We brought the story of David and Goliath and how, let's see, did David kill a giant? No. That story's always twisted. That's not what David tells them. David did not say, oh, I've killed a lion, I killed a bear. David says, I was rescued from the hands and the paws of a lion, and I was rescued from the paws of a bear. And the Lord will rescue me from... Now don't get me wrong, you still got to go out there and sling the rock. You still got to go out there with confidence. You got to do. But that rock was not what was going to kill Goliath that day. It was the understanding that God was going to come in and rescue him. I don't know if God sped that rock up by another 100 miles an hour. I don't know whether God nudged that rock just enough to make sure it hit right where it was supposed to. I don't know if God just said, you know what, you're fixing to have the best aim you've ever had in your life. I don't know. You know, I just feel good today. I don't know what it is. I just feel really good at throwing this rock. Whatever it was, David knew that God was going to rescue him that day. And you got to have this confidence. I can't see it, but God's going to come through. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know all the details, but God will rescue me. God will bring me through. God will make a way for my life. And as we walk through those two, we kind of got bogged down in this third one because now we're transitioning. We're transitioning from can I trust God to now can God trust me? And last week we began this process, and let me just say thank you for all of you that came last week. I know some because of road conditions, some of us because of just weather, car situation. I understand, I'm not mad, but I want to say thank you to All Seasons. Because for you to get up last week when everybody says, hey, you got a good reason to just not do anything. You know what, we're just going to give you an out. And you don't have to come to church, and you can just stay home. And when you woke up Sunday like I did, Sunday is the Lord's day. And don't get me wrong, if they had said there's a pending tornado headed this direction and then I would have said. But if they said, you know what, sometime Sunday it's going to get cold. No, that's not enough. I'm going to trust the Lord. And I want to say thank you. And not demeaning anyone else for choosing what they choose, but I know a lot of places in the state, and Oxford and others, we're still praying for them because they caught it bad. We would not have had church in Oxford. It would not have been. But the fact is, thank you for being who you are, because what it does, it speaks to our DNA that we are not looking for a way out. We're looking for a way in. And we're always looking to draw closer and never trying to find an excuse to pull back. And so thank you for being that church and being that. So last week we had the fishing pole and we talked about what is God using the bait to try to get you. And each of us have it. Each of us have a place where, you know, we had something was like cigarettes and we had something was like drinking and some that was the candy where, you know what, when life gets bad, I just pig out, Pastor. It's just like a bucket of ice cream looks so good. We all have areas, whether we try to lie our way out or whatever it is, the enemy says, oh, here you go. Here's your out. Here's your way. And every one of us has chosen one. I shared some of mine, and I have to guard against that. I have to make sure that I don't give the devil the place, and we all do, because he's not going to quit dangling that in front of me the rest of my life. I just have to get used to saying, no, that's not an option. We're not going there. And so we studied last week a story about Moses, Miriam, and Aaron. It's where Moses is being confronted by Miriam and Aaron, his brother and sister, because he's married this woman, and they see it as a perfect opportunity to say, we don't like what's going on. We don't like the way you're doing this. We don't like the way you're running everything. And so they just totally go after him. And we found out from last week this simple understanding. Don't bite the hook. Don't take the bait. Yes, Satan is going to come at you with stuff. Yes, there's going to be frustration. There's going to be times. But listen to me. Don't. It's not going to bring you the answer you want. This one guy used to tell me, the answer is not at the bottom of that bottle, Brother Lott. The answer is not at the end of that drag that I'm fixing. The answer is not there. If it was, I'd tell you, knock yourself out. But it's not. We have a world full of calamity to prove that it's not there. If it was, go do it. But it's not. The enemy's going to sell you something that's not going to work. But he's going to try to get you hooked. In fact, the Bible described it as lures. He lures us away. And I showed you my tackle box, and I said, you know what I got in this tackle box? Hundreds of different kinds of lures. Why don't you just have one lure? Because depending on what fish I'm after, and depending on what the weather is, and depending on what, I have to go at him in different ways. So you say, oh, well, if I do this, the enemy won't. No, he just use a different lure. Well, I'll just do this. He's going to use he's coming. You just have to be to the mindset to where I'm not taking the bait. And if I have, which we all have, we've all made mistakes, we've all sinned, come short of the glory of God, don't let shame be the end of your story. Miriam, yes, got leprous because of this. But they waited on her until 7 days had passed and brought her back into the camp. It wasn't the end of their story. Don't let your failure, don't let your mistake, don't let what the enemy says, oh, you've done something nobody else has ever done. Let me tell you something. There's nothing new under the sun. Somebody, in fact, multiple people have done whatever you did. It's been done before. You're not creating new sin. It's just when you get you hooked, he wants to hold you there. Don't let him do it. Don't let shame be the end of your story. Now today, I share all that because we need to step into this next part. Today, as you turn in your Bibles with me to Proverbs 20, verses 4 through 7, I want to touch on this thought that, like I said, God's chopped them up for me because he said, look, I don't want you blowing through them. I want you taking them a little more time in every one. And I was telling somebody, because I'll talk about frustration today, I was like, that frustrates me. Because I'm like, I want to hurry up and get through this one because I got the next sermon and I got this sermon and I got this. And he's like, no, not this. Chop it up and make it understandable. So hopefully I can do that for you today, just like I'll get teary-eyed talking about and sharing it with you. So in Proverbs 20, verses 4 through 7, here's what it says. Sluggards do not plow in season. So at harvest time they look but find nothing. Now before I go any further, I want to tell you what we're going to talk about. It's in the little things. Look at that person beside you and say, it's in the little things that you do. We always want to do big things. People talk about, well, Pastor Lott, I mean, you are blessed, man. Look, I wish I could be what you are, but I'm nothing like Pastor Lott. Well, let me tell you about Pastor Lott. Pastor Lott at 18 years old was a buggy pusher at Sack and Save in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Anybody think they could get a job doing that? Well, then you could qualify to be Pastor Lott. They didn't even trust me on a register. They didn't trust me. They trust me stocking shelves, and they trust me, Tim, go get them buggies out of the yard. Tim, women's bathroom, somebody really messed it up. We need you to go clean it. That was my first job. You say, but you're Pastor Lott. I had no education. I was a D student in high school. I was one of those kids. Some of you are one of those kids that says, you know what, I had to wait like to the last week to know whether I was walking with the crew. Me too. My science teacher finally signed off, 4 days left, and he said, you made a 69 or a 70. You passed. You get to walk with 1986 high school. And I'm thinking, thank the Lord, I did not want to come back for one class. You say, why do you tell us that? Because I want you to understand, in our lives, we think to ourselves many times, it's big things. Boy, you do these big things, but that's not it. It's the little things you do. I was faithful pushing buggies. I was faithful in stocking shelves. I was faithful in cleaning a floor. I was faithful every step in my life. I was faithful in whatever He gave me to do each step along the way. I was faithful in the little things. When I joined the church, for some of you, you want to do big things, big ministry. Let me give you something small. How many are members of All Seasons? All right, you're a member of All Seasons Worship Center. Do you come every Sunday? Are you faithful? You promise to be. Do you pay your tithes? Not tipping God. Well, I give Him what I can. No. You promised to give 10% of whatever came in. You made a promise. And you said, I'll be faithful, Lord. If you'll bless me with this check and give me this, man, I'll give you that 10% and I'll be thankful to have the 90. How long have you been thankful? And now you done got to where, well, I need the 90 and I need this because I got that DirecTV bill and I got this other stuff and it's done crept over into God's money. See, being faithful is the key. In my life, that's all I've ever tried to do. It's like, God, help me to be faithful here. Help me to be faithful here. Help me to be faithful in my job. If I got a job tomorrow at McDonald's, it doesn't bother me. They could put me out there throwing the garbage away. But I'm going to tell you something. Because of my faithfulness and my commitment, I'll be running that place before long. Some of y'all in this room, you need to get that mindset that, you know what, you put me anywhere, I'm going to get blessed. Take Joseph and stick him in a prison. Stick him over in Potiphar's house. He's going to get blessed. You take Abraham and stick him out in the middle of the desert. His cattle's going to do better than everybody else's. Why? Because God's responsible for that. You're responsible for faithfulness. You're responsible to be faithful. So I don't have to be the smartest person. I don't have to be the greatest person. I don't have to do big things. I just have to be faithful over the little things. Let me give you something to write down if you're a young person or an older person. This is good. Some of y'all start at McDonald's tomorrow. You're a little late starting, but this will be a good one. If you do little things like they're big things, then one day you'll do big things like they're little things. If you can do little things like they're big, like they're just life-changing things. Instead of just getting this, oh, it don't matter. No. Do the little things like they're the biggest things in the world. Then you will one day do big things like there's nobody else. And that's a promise you can take from Pastor Lot and God. So, here's what Proverbs says. Sluggards do not plow in season. So at harvest time, they look but find nothing. So this is the problem with most people. Most people are just like, well, I want to harvest. I want to get my stuff. I want to be the manager of Walmart. I want to be the manager of McDonald's. I want to be well, great. That's a wonderful dream. But sluggards sit around wanting, wishing. Oh, I'm hoping Mr. Right comes along. Let me just go ahead and break it to you. He's not. Because Mr. Right is not going to look for somebody sitting on a couch eating bonbons. Mr. Right is looking for somebody that when he sees her or she sees him, and they're going to say to themselves, that one, that's quality. That one can make my life better. That one I want to do life with. That's what Mr. and Miss Right is looking, because they're working hard. And they're not looking for something that's going to be a chain and some anchor hung on their life. They're looking for something that can run with them. That's how Lee strapped me. Telling you. I was happy. I was thinking, ain't nobody do like I mean, God, I love you. I'm telling you, I'm committed. I'm in this thing. Ain't nobody like me, God. I mean, that's just, and then all of a sudden one day I met Elise. And I found out she liked God. And she liked to do stuff. And she had dreams. And she wanted to have, and I thought to myself, me and you could, we could do life together. And she tricked me into bringing her along. Or sometimes people think, she brought me along. But we've gone right along together. Because what I was looking for was somebody, can you run with me? A sluggard doesn't plow. In the season, it's time to plow, to work, to commit, to learn. They want the harvest, but they don't want it. Here's what the Bible promises you. So at harvest time, they will get nothing. The purpose of a man's hearts are deep waters. In other words, you're going to have dreams or visions or wants. You need those. That's what's supposed to move you. If you're in this room and you've got, like, here's what I want to see, wonderful. But it's not just going to fall off a turnip truck. It's going to have to be worked for. But he says, I've given you these things deep in your heart. Brother Lloyd, I know it sounds crazy, but this is that's not crazy. That's an awesome thing. But don't think it's just going to happen. They're deep waters. Well, since they're deep waters, guess what? When I go fishing, the bigger the fish I'm after, the deeper the water I have to get in. I went with one with Caitlin, and I was thinking, man, we're just going to go fishing like normal. And this guy pulls out this thing that he has to plug in. And I'm thinking, I do not have one of those reels, but I want one. But I really want one. And I found out why. Because when we got out to a certain place and he says, all right, we're fixing to anchor here. There's a drop right here. And I mean, what do you mean drop right here? He said, well, it's 600 feet where we're standing. And I said, doop, and held my thumb, and that thing, it just kept going. And it hit the bottom. And he said, all right, reel it a couple times. He said, feel it. If it hits, and I'm thinking 600 yards down there, feet down below me on my finger is a fish somewhere. And when that thing hit, I'm thinking to myself, no, he said, push the button. And that thing started reeling it in. I said, yeah, I got to have one of these. Yeah, we got to get one. I don't know what Elise has to sell, but we got to get one of these. And what it was, deep waters. Those big things in your life come from deep waters. But here's what it says. The purpose of a person's heart are deep waters. But one who has insight does what? Draws it out. He doesn't just flop up on the boat. He draws it out. He has to pull on. There was one time it did mess up. The electronic thing messed up. And it did have to. I sat there, and I sat there, and I sat there, and I thought, I will never get this. But that's what deep waters do. Many claim to have unfailing love. But I love this question. But a faithful person, who can find them? You know, that's what God does. God says, I got all this great stuff to do. I got great ideas. But can I find someone who's faithful to draw it out if I give it to them? You know, Forrest was always meant to be this. But somebody had to draw it out. Somebody had to spend, and it's hard for me to imagine, 31 years. That's a lot of reeling. That's deep water. 31 years of, God, am I ever, you're not there yet, Tim, but you're getting there. He says, many claim to have unfailing love, but a faithful person, who can find them? Verse 7, the righteous lead blameless lives. Blessed are their children after them. Not only do they live the life, but somebody behind them always gets to watch what it's like to do it right. Where did you learn this, Pastor? I learned this from my dad. I learned this from my dad who grew gardens every year. Well, I know people don't do that anymore. But man, he would get us out there and we'd have to hoe around stuff and then it got to be sticking time and cutting those limbs and setting limbs and hanging them on the wire and then there comes the 5-gallon bucket season where you just slide that bucket and you reach up in them vines and you just have to pull. And anybody know what I'm talking about? Some of y'all looking at me like, what the world? Just go to Walmart, buy it in a can. No, with no cans. If I'd have known there were cans at that time, I would have raised $5 and told Dad, I'm going to Walmart. Dad would just brag, oh, son, just wait. I've sat there with a blanket, a white sheet with a pile of peas that looked like as tall as me, and we sat there with them till my fingers were purple and raw. And my dad and mom would look, oh, it's going to taste so good. I'm thinking, look at my thumbs. I got to go to school like this. And I'd go to school, somebody would say, been shelling peas, I see. But you know what? He was right. The person who plows and picks and then puts them in those little pressure cookers and butter beans and One day you walk in and Mom pulls a glass of tomatoes out and some butter beans and a thing of the vegetables. She said, we're having soup tonight. And you're sitting there and Dad's like, I told you. And I'm like, yeah, you did. That's how I learned those scriptures. You got to dig deep. It takes some work. It takes some effort. It takes some commitment. But what I'm looking for is somebody faithful. I'll make sure the crop comes through. I'll make sure, but I got to have somebody who can water. And I got to have someone who can plant. And I got to have someone who will work it. Because I'll make the increase. I'll take care of you. I will bless you. But I need someone I can count on. It's the little things. So the problem is that little things are hard to keep doing. I talked about Abraham a few weeks ago, and let's talk about Abraham. Man, Abraham, the father of faith. Woo. But you know, Abraham was also the guy that somewhere in the journey, his wife looks at him and says, this ain't working. This is not happening. We need another plan. We need another strategy. Because this one, God's not coming through. I'm watching it try to come up and I don't see nothing. I don't see it happening. I don't see no harvest coming. And so he ends up sleeping with her maid and having an illegitimate child that now even today is war and battles over there over who's owning the land and who's. How about David? We studied him a couple weeks ago. Go to me to 2 Samuel 11:1. 2 Samuel 11:1. David, who was rescued by God. Was rescued by God. Even when he hid in caves and Saul was trying to kill him, was rescued by God. And now he's the king and he can do anything he wants. And he's winning battles and he's growing the kingdom and taking territory for the Lord. But notice what happens. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army, and they destroyed the Amorites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in. A faithful man, where can I find him? I can ask it this way: a faithful mother, a faithful father, a faithful husband or a faithful wife, a faithful worker at their job. Where can I find them? Yeah, this story of David, the David who kills giants and David who does it, is also the David at this story right here decides, I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I don't want to do it no more. I don't want to plant no more. I don't want to get ready for a harvest anymore. Even though I know God's going to deliver us and God's going to let us win battles, I'm just tired of it. I'm frustrated. David stays home, and we know the story of Bathsheba. He can't even sleep because he's bored. When you get unbusy, when you stop being busy, my dad had a wonderful phrase for that too, son. That was the last thing you'd ever want to tell my dad. Dad, I can't sleep. Son, we'll fix that tomorrow. There's a cure for that. And he was right. You fall in that bed and be like, don't let morning come. And David can't sleep because he's not planning. He's not doing. He's frustrated and life is not what he thought and it's not working out as easy as he thought. And he looks over the balcony of his house and he sees a woman bathing, and we know the story. He invites her to his house and they bring her and they have intercourse. Problem is, she gets pregnant. He has to kill her husband to hide the whole thing. It's a mess. This is the same David we preached about. Confidence of God. This is the same Abraham we preached in following him when I don't know him. But yet every single one of us have moments where it's hard to just keep doing the little things. We get frustrated. Look at the person beside you and say, I get frustrated. I feel like it's never going to get here. I feel like I'm never going to make it. I feel like these kids, and you just using illustrations, that kid that's crying and I can't get it to quit crying. I'm just frustrated. My wife, my husband, where I work. I'm just frustrated. It's not going well. It's not doing what I thought. I'm not reaching where I thought I would reach. And life gets frustrating and it gets troublesome. And the story I want to speak today is Numbers 20. Another story, same guy we talked about last week, Moses. Moses, when we preached about him last week, he is the most meek man in all the world. The meekest man in the world. Can't get no better than that. In fact, God even says, the rest of you, I talk to you in dreams, and I talk to you like give you feelings. And he said, but Moses, I just come down to talk to him face to face. I have no one who's more faithful to me than Moses in all the world. That's a pretty good compliment. And yet Moses, when we get to verse 20, is frustrated. Chapter 20, verse 12, just read this scripture and I'll tell you the story. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not, wow. 8 chapters before, he's the greatest man, the most trustworthy man. 8 chapters later, I can't trust you. I can't trust you. You're not trustworthy. You did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites. You will not bring this community into the land I give them. You did all this work, but you will not enter this promised land. The thing that I put in you, those deep things, and I said, the deep things I want you to pull up. You were reeling well. You were bringing it up well, but you reached a point to where you quit reeling and you let it go all the way back to the bottom. And you won't be around long enough to get it reeled all the way back up. What happened? Well, this is what happened. Moses, who's pastoring this group of people, nearly 2 million, some say. He's led them out of Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, into this desert, and God has done miracle after miracle. And now they've come to Moses once again, and they're like, we're thirsty, and we got no water, and we're dying out here, and we've got nothing, and we're not going to make it. And Moses is like, really? Again? One time you ain't got water, I throw a tree in and it gets sweet. Another time you ain't got water, I strike a rock and water comes out. And now you're complaining like, we ain't got any water. Like you don't think God's going to come through with water? And he gets frustrated. Let me tell you something. I understand because Moses is a pastor. And that's one of the most difficult jobs there is in the world. It breaks my heart to watch so many of them falling and so many people just giving up ministry and walking away because they can't take the frustration anymore. And Moses is no different. There's things he has to deal with and things he has to... He's got a big family. It broke my heart a while back when I was doing some research and I was many years ago and I was like, okay, I'm trying to find ways to take breaks and I'm trying to find ways to do sabbatical or do, all these different things. And I started coming across all this information. I'm like, okay, maybe this will help. And it broke my heart. And this is what it said. Basically, he said, this thought of you taking a vacation or taking a break or he said, it is an impossibility. It never happens. As a pastor, as a minister, even if you go fishing, you got somebody on your mind. Even if you are going to go do something, you're going to get a phone call, a text. You're going to have somebody you're worrying about, somebody that's in surgery this week, something that's taking place, some family that's in the break of divorce, and you're praying for them all the week you're off in a way. And I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm telling you, it broke my heart when I'm like, you're telling me I can't take a break? No, you never can take a break. You're 24/7, 365 days. If somebody calls, you're there. If somebody dies, you're there. If somebody's having surgery, you're there. If somebody needs to talk, you're there. And I understand Moses with his frustration, and you have to deal with it too. I'm not trying to say I'm the only person in the world. You have children that you say, man, these kids, I'm telling you, they're about to drive me crazy. I'm wondering, why did I have you? And you look at your mate and you're like, you did this. I didn't want another one. I told you I didn't want no more. But no, we had to have number 5. And none of that is the problem. The problem is you're frustrated. We all get frustrated at our jobs. We get frustrated with our mates. We get frustrated. For some of you that's been married 2 or 3 years, you're like, you know what, we're growing. We're going to get there. Let me tell you, take it from somebody 31 years in. You got more frustration coming. You got all kind of moments coming. Life changes, kid changes, teenagers. Nobody else in the house but you now. I thought that was going to be a blessing. That turned out to be a little bit of a problem. Them kids can occupy a lot of her time. Now she ain't got nobody else to worry about but me. All of this is part of the journey, and it can cause frustrations. Let me explain frustration a little bit to you. This is what frustration is. It's when someone or something prevents us from what we want. It's when something or someone, we feel like, if we're a teenager, you know what, my parents, they won't let me, they're keeping me from, it frustrates you. If you're a parent and a kid won't act right and they're crying all the time, it frustrates you. It no matter who it is or what you're going through. And here's the reason frustration comes into our life. Because listen, we're made in God's image. God, when He created things, said at the end of it, that's good. That's good. That's good. And what we're wanting in our life, in that God part of us, is to look at our kids one day and say, that's good. We want to be able to look at our marriage one day and say, we're good. We want to be able to look at the different areas of our, and the crazy thing, we get one area straight, the other one goes sideways. And now it's like, God, I had this one right, and now this one's my frustration. And frustrations are part of your life. You're made in God's image, so you're seeking fulfillment in your needs and your goals. And what happens is, it's not working. Whatever is supposed to work is not working. That's why this season that the church went through back in the 80s and 90s was such a horrible season for the church, when it was in this prosperity preaching and all this prosperity preaching. And don't get me wrong, if you give to God, God wants to bless you. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you give 69.93 and you're going to get this harvest of miracle because you gave 69, and we're going to send you the anointing oil and you're never going to get sick the rest of your life. Listen to me, that's not reality. Look at that person beside you and say, I'm dealing with frustrations right now. Welcome to the club. And you ain't even got to pastor all of them. So in our lives, we start to say it's not working. That's why every Monday I want to resign. And I do. I just don't have nobody to tell it to. But God, and God just don't listen. I'm through. God's like, we'll talk Tuesday. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Because it's not working, God. I preached the best message I know, and they still didn't straighten up. I still, before Sunday night, got 2 phone calls that somebody done gone sideways, and I thought, they were there Sunday morning. They heard what I preached. What's wrong? And Elise looks at me, you need to call them. Oh, no. I said for an hour I talked to them, face to face, talked to them. They were sitting there the whole time with tears. And I said, yeah. What else I got to say? Just to let you know, pastors get frustrated. Just like you look at that kid. I told that kid 12 times. I've said, we all do. It's not working. Here's 3 things you need to understand about frustration. your mind will always say, stop. We need another route. When I talk about David, when I talk about Moses, when I talk about Abraham, what did they do? They stopped and they looked for another route. This marriage ain't working. I need to go find another friend. These kids aren't working. I need to bail and start another family. They used to have a song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Just get on the bus, Gus. You don't have to discuss much. You don't have to be coy, Roy. Just get yourself free. And that sounds so good to us, like, that's such a good song. I'm like, that's horrible. That's not strategy. That's horrible. But that's what we do. Is like, it ain't that hard. Just quit. It isn't that hard. Yes, it is. Your mind is going to say, let's stop. Let's try something else. Let's do something different. Second thing is, when it stops us, here's what comes. The helpless feeling and the hopeless feeling, which leads to the stuck feeling and the depressed feeling. When you stop, that's what the enemy needs. He just needs you to stop pursuing your harvest, pursuing your planning, pursuing what you were meant to do. Keep doing that prayer every morning. And they don't seem to be doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing that Bible study every afternoon. It's one of the things I've learned about my kids now. It's one of the things I'm trying to set up with them and do with them. I can't be with them all the time. And so I've talked to all of them. And me and Nathan's already started one. But like, hey, I need you to help me with these Bible studies. Would you do them with me? And they're like, yeah. You know, and so each week I get to call them and we get to do a Bible study together. And it's like, okay, I'm not able to be in their life all the time. But I can keep planting. I can keep sowing. I can keep waiting for a better harvest. I can keep stopping and saying, I don't know if my kids will ever get. I don't know what it's going. No, that's not a strategy. Don't stop. Keep doing. If you can't do nothing but send a scripture to that person you care about each week, each day, send them a devotion. I have people that sends me, that pray for me, sends me devotions every day and prayers every day, or reminds me every day, hey, I believe in Tim Lott. And you have no idea what that does every single day as I trudge along and as I go along, just simply saying, I'm still sowing. I'm still going to put some seed in the ground. I'm still believing for a harvest. I'm not quitting today. I'm not stopping today. Number 3, here's what it's really meant to do. Your mind says stop. If you stop, you're going to be in trouble. But what's going on, Brother Lott? Number 3, it's testing your flexibility and your teachability or your learnability. Are you still learnable, teachable? Are you still flexible? Because that's what God is doing. When I was going through all those seasons, I wasn't going by accident when I started in a grocery store. Oh no. I was in Birmingham in school doing good. That's when God said, come back home. And He said, now get a job. And He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you to be flexible and always teachable. Because in your frustrations, no matter if you're at the lowest or you're at the highest, it's still the same. Because in my mind I'm thinking, I'm just going to beat those kids. Just going to beat them. They want to cry, I'm going to give them something to cry about. No. Can God come in that moment and say, hey, go hug them? I don't want to hug them. Can you hug them? Can you just talk with them? Sit on the edge of their bed and just, they won't talk to me. Then you talk. Are you flexible? Are you teachable? Can you go into that office of your boss that you're having that trouble and say, hey, boss, this is not anything personal. I'm struggling. And I just want you to know if there's something I've done or some way I've acted, I'm sorry. I don't want you to ever, and this is not about me whining or complaining. Is there anything I can do to help our relationship be better? Is there a way I can work to do better? Bro, that's humble now. No, it's flexible. It's giving God room. Now God gets to touch his heart or her heart and gets to look at you like, man, I appreciate that. I had to walk into a lot of rooms and be flexible. It'd be easy to be pastor lot, walk in, I need you to do this and you to do this. We're going to fix this. No, I walk in and I hear mounds of, this is what, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh God. He said, listen, what can they do? Be flexible. Are they teachable? You either are going to trust or you're going to act out. That's what frustration brings. You can't take frustration but for so long. For Moses, here's what happens. This is why he didn't go into the promised land. God specifically looks at him and says, Moses, I want you to go talk to the rock. I want you to be flexible. Talk to the rock. And tell the rock, rock, give us water. That's all I need you to do. Moses walks out there with that stick in his hand. And I'm sure everybody was like, bah. And he's like, oh, I've had about all I can take. And he says, you bunch of rebels. Don't listen to no sermons I ever preach. Every time I tell you to do something, you do just the opposite. I tell you what, I had about all of you I could take. You want water? I'll give you water. And he starts whacking that rock. Because when you're frustrated, you don't ever wake up in the morning like, today I'm just going to yell at my wife. I am going to yell at her till she cries. You ever done that? I have a couple times. It's like, today I'm just going to yell till she... No, nobody does that. But you don't know when that frustration level has been like, that's it. It's crossed the threshold. When I'm frustrated, it has to eventually come out. Let me question you here. Does it come out as rage for you? Do you just blow up? Can you just leave me alone? I'm tired of people telling me what to do. I'll be better off if I just by myself. I've heard people say this. I've never said it myself. I've heard people say things like that. Is it rage? For some people, they just quit. That's it. If that's the way it's going to be, I'm through. We can just get a divorce. I thought we were never going to use that word. I'm not playing with it. I'm through. Maybe for somebody, we just shut down. Are you just not going to talk to me? I said all I know to say. I'm through. See, when you're frustrated, it's got to come out sooner or later somehow. So for some of us, we just withdraw. My dad, he's a master of withdrawing. He gets so frustrated. It was either kill us all or withdraw. And he was 260 pounds and could have killed us all. Thankfully, he chose the other. So Dad would just get mad, just storm out the house. All right, I'm done. I'm coming back. I'm through. He'd drive to town, go get a paper. Back when people read papers. He'd get a paper, drive back in the parking in our car lot. We as kids, we could look out the window, see his car out there, and Dad would be in that car. I'm thinking, what is he reading? And now as I'm older and I've had 3 kids, and I'm like, that car is a beautiful place to be sometimes. You know what? You don't cause as much damage in that car as you could outside that car. He was smart enough to realize, ain't nothing good going to come after this. But he couldn't withdraw forever. He eventually had to come back and face whatever. Each of us try to find our way to deal with our frustrations. Children, we're teaching them, and let me just say this as I close on this part. We do a horrible job now raising children. And I'm not trying to be ugly to you. It's just the world and what they've set up. We do a horrible job because we're teaching them not to know how to deal with frustrations. And teachers are struggling to have to deal with this because we have children that just blow up and stab another kid with a pencil or just start cussing you out right there as a teacher in the middle. It's not that they're bad kids. They're the same kids that were born in 1960s. They all came the same way. They all have... What's different, Brother Lott? Well, I'll just give you one area. It could be media. It could be the laptops we put in front of them. But the video games. Think about a kid. And my kids grew up in the beginning of it when Halo was just coming out, or they just got out of Tecmo Bowl. You know, I could play that with my boys for just a little while, and then it was like the buttons. Man, it got buttons everywhere, and I was like, I'm done. Can't do all them buttons and things, and it's past me. But I watched my boys, and they'd be playing something, and Elise would come in and say, all right, boys, it's time to get ready for bed, and they'd turn it off. You know, they just would look at Mom, and my wife, and they would say, you're right, Mom, it's time to get to bed. It's time, and turn that thing off. And is that the way it went for y'all? No. What happened? They get mad. You're always trying to tell me what to do. I ain't got to go to bed. I ain't got nothing to do at school tomorrow. You're just making my life miserable, and everybody else gets to play, and I got buddies that... What we were doing was we were training them to be frustrated, but on a game you can hit reset. In life you can't. We were teaching them how to not learn how to properly deal with frustrations. And we have a generation now, if you turn on your news and watch Minnesota or watch any of these places where you're like, man, these people are crazy. No, they're not. They're people that grew up just like most kids, frustrated, and not know how to deal with it, and learning language and learning attitudes. And now when they get frustrated, they don't know how to just deal with it. Think of Martin Luther King, who was frustrated in his time. Martin Luther King, who was frustrated by how society was treating his people and how things, and he was right. And you know what? We have all this documentary of him kicking out taillights and him shooting cops. No. He knew how to deal with his frustration, how to take it to the Lord, and how to say, God, this is too big for me. But I'm going to be steady in the middle of it. I don't care what they do to me. I'm going to be steady. And I'm going to be faithful. It's different than what we see now. That's why Paul said in the last days there'll be rioters, there'll be people disobedient to parents. Why? Because they're going to be so frustrated. You look at those people, don't get mad at them. Don't think, well, they're crazy. No, just look at them and see how frustrated they are about life, and they don't know how to fix it. Look at that 5th grader. Look at that senior in school who's just so frustrated with life and does not know how to deal with it. Has no skills to deal with it. The moment that he's out of school, he's back on a phone or he's puts headsets on because it's his only way he's ever known how to deal with his frustration. How do you think they're going to work in a real world, in a real situation? I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling you this is what we're creating. And the enemy's eating it up. Go with me in your Bibles to Mark 8, 36 through 38. And I'll read a couple scriptures and I'm done. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Now, he didn't say his spirit. He said your soul, your mind, your heart, your emotions. What good is it to gain the whole world, but you don't control your emotions and your heart and your mind? Verse 37. Or what can anyone give in exchange for their... What can you exchange? What can you give? If you give a child a little bitty laptop and say, here, just be quiet in the back seat. Before long, they're screaming again because it went off, or they need another program, He said, if you gain it all but don't learn how to have a soul that's at peace, what good is it? Or what can anyone give? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory. It's amazing he puts those scriptures right together. Why? Because he's saying, listen to me. You want to kill frustration? You want to help your soul? Learn to trust me. Learn to be faithful to me. Let me give you another one. Go with me to Luke 12, 47 and 48. The servant who knows the master's will, and I love and I hate this scripture. This is some of the most difficult scriptures for me to get, but I understand it so well because I'm 58 years old nearly, and I understand the system now. At 18, it was very confusing for me in that pushing buggies and whining and God, why are you doing this to me? And I get it now. And here's what it means. The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many. So when we get to heaven one day, we're just going to sit there and watch a bunch of people get whipped. No. You ever done something? Let's just take my wife. She's an incredible lady. I'm lucky. So I do something. And I start to walk away, and it's like God says, go hug her. Tell her you're sorry. Oh, I didn't start this. I can't see it, but there's an invisible stick. And I'm walking around. I can do it all the way through lunch. Ooh. Or I can just decide, I get it. Elise, I'm sorry. But the one who knows to do good and do what they're supposed to do and decides, go back to that verse. The servant who knows the master will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many. You ever done stuff and it's like, I need to fix that. And you just keep delaying it and it gets like your head gets sore and it feels like somebody whooping you? They are. Just do it. And here's what it says. Verse 48. But the one who does not know and does things deserving of punishment will be beaten with few blows. I'm going along. I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to be the best husband I can be. I didn't do anything. I hadn't tried to. And I still do something sometimes to hurt Elisa's feelings. And I start to walk away. And I feel that familiar thing. Whop. But I'm not as dumb as I used to be. Instead of going half a day now, I get one lick. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know how this goes. But the one who does not know and does things deserving of punishment will be beaten with few blows. For everyone who has been given much, much will be. You want to be a parent? More blows. You want to get married? Comes with more blows. You want to move up in your career? More blows. But understand, the one who doesn't know but is constantly, easily moved by God will just be beaten. Come on now. Come on, Tim. For everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, that means God knows you're faithful. Much will be asked. I wouldn't wish my job on any of you. But I wouldn't give my job to any of you. It took a lot of licks, a lot of blows to get to just where I am, and that ain't like very high. But as a parent, I wouldn't want to go back through all that. But I'm thankful for it. Learning to be a married person, I don't want to go back through all that. But I'm thankful for it. Where you are, feel it. Get used to feeling it. Because what he's doing is wanting to know, can I trust you? Moses, I need you to speak to the rock. I'm going to slap that. Ugh! But Moses wouldn't listen. Moses! Moses! No. And it cost him. It cost David. It cost Abraham. And it'll cost you. Last scripture, and I'm done. Psalms 37, 1 through 6, some of my favorite scriptures. Here's what it says. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or don't be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither, and like green plants, they will soon die away. You know the things I worried about over on Bank Street? Long gone. Things I worried about in the building next door? Long gone. Things I worried about in my 30s? I can't even remember it. You know what? It's like grass. It'll fade. He says this, then if you know this, verse 3, trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy the safe pasture He's given you. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. See, this is what I always dreamed. But I had no idea how to get here. I grew up in small churches where a lot of dysfunction and I was like, God, I don't want that. But I don't know how to do anything else. You've given me this something deep. Can you help me pull it out? Yeah. For some of you, He's given you something deep, a dream, a career, a purpose, where you need to be. Don't settle. Draw it out. Draw it out. It may take you 31 years like me, but it's worth it. I always think of David. David, when Nathan the prophet comes and tells him, you're the man, you sinned, you did. David's like, I sinned against God, I'm a horrible person. David just breaks down. And all that's good. But what breaks my heart the most is what Nathan says to him next. It always gets me. And you can see the compassion on Nathan the prophet because they were friends. In fact, David named one of his children Nathan. They were friends. And Nathan looked at him and said, David, don't you know that if you'd have asked God for anything, if you'd have just said, God, this is my heart, and this is what I want, don't you know God would have given it to you? If you'd have said, I want a 34, 24, 36, and I want her blonde and blue-eyed or whatever you'd have wanted, he said, God would have found her for you. You didn't have to go do what you did. You just needed to be trustworthy. So that's what it says. He will give you the desires of your heart. Next verse. Commit your ways then to the Lord. Trust Him, and He will do this. What's He going to do? If I was to say, Pastor Lott, if I trust God today, and I get out of this mindset of being frustrated, and I just trust Him, and I do what I'm supposed to do as a husband, a wife, and what's He going to do? Let's see. He said, I will make your righteousness reward shine like the dawn. Your vindication like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Say, don't worry about everybody else. One day you will shine like a new day. I don't know how far God's got for me or you or whatever, but I know this. I'm still breathing. So that means God's still got some shining He wants to do. There's some more hills He wants to climb. There's some more victories He wants to rescue me from. I've enjoyed every one of them. I look at these young people and I wish I could go back. I really do. It's been the greatest journey of my life, walking with Him. If I could give you any advice at all, trust Him. Lean on Him. You married couples, don't give up. Lean on Him and trust in Him. He will come through. He is faithful, but what He's looking for, can I find a faithful person? That's a hard question. Will you stand? I don't know what your frustration is today. I don't know where the enemy keeps prodding you with and says, look, you got to do something. You got to change. You got to go find somebody else. You need to find a better job. And all that may be true, but it's not if you don't do it patiently with God. You have to patiently wait and say, God, here's my need. And I'm going to be faithful. And you worry about the big stuff. And don't be surprised if the stuff that seems so big right now fades like dead grass in a few days. If you're in this room, you say, Pastor, I'm frustrated by some things and I'm dealing with it the wrong way. Then let's change. Let's start being that husband. Let's start being that wife. Let's start being that worker. Let's start being that dad, that mom. Let's not do the things that draw us away or get us enraged. Let's do the things that God's called us to do. If my dad was here today, I'd hug his neck. And I'd say thank you. Thank you for teaching me that there has to be a sowing. There has to be planting. There has to be some work and tilling or picking. Because you don't understand the joy of the harvest unless you can learn to enjoy the journey. With every head bowed, Father, whoever you're digging into deep today, because some of them have some great dreams in their lives. They have some ambitions. God, whoever you're speaking to, whatever young person, older person, it doesn't matter. God, I ask you that let deep call to deep. But Lord, let us patiently walk. Let us patiently trust. Let us not get frustrated in how long it takes. God, it only took 31 years for me to get here. It took Abraham 25 years to have the child. It took Joseph a lifetime to finally preserve his family. God, you don't forget. You don't fail. But you see it all. You're faithful. Lord, through your Holy Spirit, teach us to be faithful. Give us gentleness and kindness and long-sufferingness, meekness and temperance. Those are the fruits of your Spirit that come and live within us. Don't let us lean on our flesh, but let us lean on that so that we can reach our destiny. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Look at that person beside you and say, I know you